I would love to tell you that I'm here today to restore Invoker to its former glory, but I don't think I can do that. What I can offer is a pretty reasonable alternative in the form of Shattering Palm, and one that's less likely to be nerfed into the ground and stomped on repeatedly. The Shattering Palm crystals both detonate each other and proc both heralds, and this ends up doing a reasonable job at clearing as well as providing the linked explosions that we've all come to know and love. For the sake of testing viability as a starter, I've been using fairly low budget, non crit gear, and I've still been able to clear T15s reasonably well, which means that a build that does go crit is going to have a pretty good time in the end game. They've even revised pinpoint critical support to give 60% more critical chance, which should make getting a useful amount of crit easier than ever. After some time with the new patch, I can say that my SSF guide is still mostly valid, with a few exceptions I'll go over in a minute. An important note is that there's a lot more projectiles in the game generally, and some enemies are faster, making move speed on boots more mandatory than ever. Player stun threshold was also lowered, which means avoiding stun will be very important for the game to feel good, and will require more investment in the mid and late game through a charm or gear and passives. Another big change is that Urslotha's Coil and Heft support no longer provide any benefit to the build. They were changed solely to boost the Fizz portion of the skill's final damage output instead of the physical damage before elemental conversion. They're both huge multipliers, and being gone is part of why crit is now mandatory. Concentrated effect was lowered from 40% more damage to 30% more damage, and this puts it more in line with stuff like long shot and close combat and makes it less mandatory, but the fact that it doesn't cost mana makes it a still very attractive option. A good replacement might be excoriate support, which gives up to 50% more melee damage based on the amount of elemental ailments on the enemy, and as a monk, you can do 4 elemental ailments: shock, freeze, chill, and electrocute very easily, and then ignite is a bit harder, but still possible. And 50% more damage is an extremely efficient gem, though it is conditional, and it does cost mana. To achieve the clear presented earlier in the video, the main component is Shattering Palm with a huge amount of AoE. I have Magnified Effect and the new Reach support, which doesn't seem to affect Shattering Palm because of the hits can't be evaded tag. I believe it carries over to the explosion, but I'm not sure. It seems to be working fine. Let me know if I'm wrong. And I also stack those two with this Shockwave's Anoint. The stunned condition is also inflicted when you light stun an enemy, which happens all the time, so it should be fine. This is obviously not the level of herald chaining, but it is, I would consider it an acceptable replacement, much more reasonable, ethical, if you would. And I'd say it feels pretty good, and it's going to feel even better with a crit build.